And with that, I will look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented, moved by Counselor Sanford, seconded by Counselor Ernst. Are there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. Takes us on to the approval of the meeting minutes of December 13th. If I can get a motion to approve those as circulated, moved by Counselor Duggan, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. All right, the first item of business is a presentation of Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee Medal recipients to two of the town's longtime staff, and I will turn the floor over to the CAO to make that presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. For the public record, my name is Jamie Doyle, Chief Administrative Officer. This first item, as you can imagine, is quite close to our hearts. It's an acknowledgement of two of our own, Lisa Dagley, Director of Finance, and John Mader, Water Utility Operator. Both Lisa and John are being presented with Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medals in recognition of exemplary public service. As you can read in the council report before you this evening, Lisa and John have proven time and time again the value that they add to our team and the community, and this organization is second to none. While I've only known them for a very short 6 months, I've come to rely on their experience and expertise on a regular basis. Mayor and members of council, please help join me and congratulate John and Lisa. And now I'd welcome them up to the front for presentation of the award. Thank you.
That takes us on to correspondence, and there are two pieces of correspondence there for council's information. And that takes us on to business arising and unfinished business. There's the review of council appointments to committees and organizations. My understanding is that the direction at this stage is that all existing committee members remain, and we leave it at that. Is there anything on council different? Any will that's different? All right, seeing none. That takes us on to the policy development and review policy notice. So I will hand it over to the clerk or the CAO, whoever wants to do it.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I'll start it off, and Kayla, if I say something I shouldn't, just let me know. This evening, of course, you'll see the policy in front of you. The purpose of this policy is to outline, of course, roles of council and administration and how we intersect in respect to policy development, implementation, evaluation, and review of policy effectiveness. To briefly summarize, as we all know, council approves policy and staff implement, and we're trying to make it as simple as that. And that's basically it, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave it at that. If any questions of council, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions of council at this stage? All right. Seeing none, there is a draft motion provided. Is it anybody's pleasure to move that motion as circulated? Moved by Councillor Sanford, seconded by Councillor Birtles. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. All right. That takes us on to the potable water test results for July to September 2022. These are for information. I'll turn it over to the Director of Engineering to present that report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Nova Scotia Environment and Climate Change approval documents to operate for the water treatment plant require that certain tests be carried out to verify the quality of treated potable water. There are also federal testing standards that must be followed. Routine testing is conducted in the town lab at the water treatment plant and independently by accredited labs to determine compliance levels with both the provincial and federal standards. The town of Lunenburg water system operates according to two Nova Scotia environmental approvals. The first being our approval for operation, and the second being the approval to withdraw water from Bears Lake. So the first kind of testing is our water quality testing. Water quality testing is routinely performed for this quarter between July and September 2022. And the results of the testing are on page 3 of the report. So the parameters tested for aluminum, lead, manganese, trihalomethanes, haloacetic acids, turbidity, chlorine residual, total chloroforms, and fecal chloroforms. All results were found to comply with the regulations. Second item is the raw and treated water flows. So recently, the town went through an approval process to increase our withdrawal amount from Dares Lake. And from July 31st, 2022, these were increased to allow our average rate of withdrawal to increase to 3,600 cubic meters per day, and the maximum rate of withdrawal of 5,114 meters cubed per day. So in the chart at the bottom of page 3 of the report, you can see how the dashed line and the dotted line increased to reflect these increases. The chart at the top of page 4 shows the average daily treated flows in green and the maximum daily treated volumes in purple. And you can see we're well under that increase of 5,114 cubic meters for this period. In terms of water main breaks and repairs, they're listed on page 4 and 5. These were all of relatively minor nature, and our public works crew was able to correct these the day that we went to repair them. There was also one complaint from a resident. We were able to provide them with some advice in terms of contacting a plumber because it seemed like it was on the private side rather than the public side of the curb stop. Also in this quarter, the town performed lead and copper sampling for residences. So in accordance with the NSECC residential sampling program and the town's annual lead and copper management program, 10 residences were selected for sampling. The selection of locations was based on resident interest, with priority given to those residences constructed prior to 1975. Samples were taken in July and tested based on Health Canada's guidelines for Canadian drinking water quality for lead and copper. The guidelines specify limits of 5 micrograms per litre for lead and 2,000 micrograms per litre for copper. In terms of the results, the initial sampling found that 9 of the 10 sample locations met the Canadian drinking water quality requirements for lead and copper. The one residence with the sample not meeting the requirements was notified by the town, and upon further resampling that was more stringent than the original sampling, this location was also found to meet the Canadian drinking water quality requirements. If there are any,
Okay. Are there any questions of council at this stage? All right, seeing none, we will move then on to the wastewater quality test results.
Thank you, Worship. Nova Scotia environment approval documents to operate for the wastewater treatment plant require certain tests to be carried out to verify the quality of treated wastewater at the plant. There are also federal testing standards that must be followed. Routine testing is conducted both in the town of Lunenburg labs at the plant and independently by accredited laboratories to determine compliance levels with both the provincial and federal standards. The wastewater treatment plant was issued an amended approval to operate by Nova Scotia Environment in 2020. The requirements of the approval, as well as the federal requirements, are summarized at the top of page 2. In terms of the results for this quarter, the quarterly averages are listed at the bottom of page 2 in the table. So we have the CBOD count, the suspended solids count, and the E. coli count. All the CBOD test results met the provincial and federal requirements. There were 3 instances this quarter where the total suspended solids were above the federal limit, particularly on August 8th, where we had a measurement of 210 milligrams per litre. These test results caused the overall quarterly average to exceed both the provincial and federal limits. E. coli test results were above the provincial requirements on 5 particular dates during this quarter. Nonetheless, on a quarterly average basis, which is the provincial requirement, E. coli testing results met the requirements during the quarter. The high total suspended solids and E. coli effluent concentrations were likely caused by issues with the sludge dewatering process, which have now been resolved. This was mainly due to a very dry summer, which altered the sludge consistency. And with the polymer that we were using, we weren't getting the usual reactions that we would expect through this process. Troubleshooting efforts in early September, once the issue was clearly identified, allowed the polymer dose to be adjusted to a level where the process could work again successfully by the middle of September, improving the effluent quality in a very short time. The lethality testing was performed on November 16th, 2022, and will be included in the next quarter's report. The average monthly daily flow of wastewater is summarized in the table at the top of page 4 of the report. In terms of the sewer breaks and repairs, there was 1 sewer break to report in this quarter, which impacted the force main that supplies the plant. Again, this was repaired by Public Works on the day it was identified. Are there any questions relating to the report?
I see Councillor Halverson first, then Councillor Sanford.
Can't believe I could be Councillor Sanford to a question on water treatment. But actually, to further a line of question you've been following through, I'm hoping you can explain something for me, Tyson. The test that was performed where we saw that spike of 210 milligrams, that's 10 times the allowable amount, is it not, or close to it?
Yeah, it's
just judging what you got here.
Allowable amount is 20 milligrams per liter.
Right.
So yeah.
So 10 times it's significant. So is that a snapshot because that was only tested that one day? My question really is how often those tests run? Could we catch that sooner so we don't see that tremendous spike? Like like we see right there?
The reason that it was so high in this instance, if you allow me to explain the process, is that the treated effluent or the sludge comes to the press where it's squeezed out, and the dry sludge goes into a dumpster that is then removed from the site. Normally when the press operates, water is removed. Because the sludge was so thick during the summer and because it was so dry, when the press was squeezing, because the polymer wasn't reacting the way it's supposed to, we were actually squeezing the polymer out and removing it, and the polymer holds the suspended solids. And then generally the water goes back into the system to recirculate and work through the wastewater treatment plant again. So the issue in this instance was the polymer was being removed rather than water, and the suspended solids are held in the polymer. So we're injecting that back into the system, it's recirculating and then coming back to us here. So the testing is performed on the routines prescribed in the regulations.
What, just if you could explain what that is that, again, weekly, monthly?
Yeah, it's weekly.
Weekly, okay.
Yeah, so, and then it takes time for those results to get back to us. So once it was identified through the tests, we contacted manufacturers, the polymer. Every plant has a unique polymer for the based on the materials that are coming to the plant. It's unique. So it's not something that's off the shelf from our supplier. So John and the wastewater team are working with both the press supplier and the polymer supplier to try and our engineer consultants at CBCL to try and come up with the best solution and get it on track as soon as we could. So in terms of how quickly we got this fixed, ideally it would have been quicker, but I think in the real world, our team did very well to address it.
Okay. I guess where I'm trying to get at there is, I mean, I trust that you guys did that as quickly as possible. Obviously, we want to have the best result we can. Just looking to see through that process, did you identify anything that in the future could help you mitigate a test result like that so that you could identify the problem sooner and address it sooner than we did this year?
So we know the dosage of polymer now that corrected the issue that we were facing. We had to double the dosage. And then it's planned this summer when we get into the drier material again, we'll get a consultant down from the polymer supplier and they can do some independent testing. And maybe there's a better solution that's more cost effective for us to better address the issue.
Okay.
So that's the plan for this summer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Sanford.
Through the chair, I'd like to thank the town engineer for including the precipitation in the chart. Having looked at the total precipitation amounts and looking at the average daily flow of the treated wastewater, I hope you can help me understand how is it that the flow is greater in November, December, January, February, and March, when we have fewer people in town? Like, how does that happen?
Through the chair, because our sewer system is a combined system, so we have the sanitary sewer, and then we also have the stormwater that goes through the plant. So when the town experiences precipitation events, which are mainly outside of those summer months, then all that water that is captured by the system works its way through the plant.
So I think this is what I've been trying to get at for months when I keep asking these crazy questions about precipitation in the wastewater treatment plant. So I think here it's really clear. So I'm hoping that this helps us to better understand the urgency in the separation of those water and sewer lines. So where are we at this point in time with that process? I think we're doing are we doing LiDAR?
GIS.
GIS, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, so CBCL is our consultant helping us. So they've been out picking up information and doing testing on both the flow rates in the sanitary system, the current ones that our system experiences, and also with our water system as well, helping us understand the strengths and weaknesses of our system. And they're going to perform modeling as well, which will help us identify the items in our systems that, if we are looking for storm separation, will give us the biggest impact and help to reduce the amount of stormwater that's going towards the wastewater treatment plant.
Mhm. I think this is, thank you very much. I think this is, speaks so clearly about when we look at the population, because we've had conversations about the number of people in town in busy months when it's tourism season and so on. But this really shows for us, it's the impact of the precipitation that is far outweighing the influx of people using the system. So I just hope we better understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sanford. Are there any further questions at this stage? All right, seeing none, I need a motion moved and seconded to meeting camera pursuant to section 22(2) of the Municipal Government Act. If somebody could kindly move that, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Duggan. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, and with council's unanimous consent, we will take a 10-minute recess and reconvene at 6:32 in camera.